Hello and good morning. So my name is Christopher Layev, and I want to first thank Dr. Reverend Peggy Hostetler for the opportunity to speak today and for her believing in this message. Now, I also want to thank everybody who is taking the time to listen to this. I feel truly honored for each and every one of you. So the talk is My Enemies Disappear, and we'll get to that. But I need to start at the beginning. So what's happened? This coronavirus. For me, it has exposed a mental virus that I wasn't even aware of existing for a long time. But once I did become aware of the presence, I am now called to think about who I pray for, how I pray, and it's a call to action. So I'll start at the beginning. So when I would hear people in the news, famous people that we know of that have been diagnosed with the coronavirus, I would go into prayer and know the best for them. But what happened is that it's really exposed a moral deficiency within myself that was beyond my awareness. Was there was somebody in the news whom I generally disagree with, and I was really disagreeing with their response to the coronavirus. So when this person was in the news as diagnosed, three thoughts went through my head, and it all happened within about a second. It was like slow motion thoughts. The first thought is, I am not praying for this guy. The second thought was, if this guy should succumb to the virus, it would serve him right. And then the third thought was, what in the hell is wrong with me? I couldn't believe what I just heard myself thinking. Now, I'm not going to beat myself up because I know that what happened is part of human nature, that we've been culturized, and it's also part of our instinct that we see us and them. And anybody that we see outside of us, we see as a threat. It goes back to our reptilian brain, the saber-toothed tiger days. So it's natural. But what I am on a mission to do, and that we all have been doing for a long time, is evolving. So what I'm trying to do now is get out of that human nature reaction and create what I'm going to call spirit nature. So how this works when we pray. If I'm praying for myself, and I'm going to use the example of a job. So say there's that one job that I think I want. So I go into affirmative prayer and I treat for myself to get that job. And then I get it. And then as I start the job and I'm into the place, all of a sudden I realize that it's not the right job for me. It doesn't pay what I thought it would. Or maybe I don't get along with the people I'm working with. It just doesn't work out. But if another scenario, if I want that job and I pray and treat for it and I say I want that job, but I want to do that in alignment with spirit, in alignment with all that is. Whatever is my highest and best and the highest and best for the whole world, that is the job I want. That if that is the realization that I have and the demonstration that I receive, it might be that job that I thought I wanted, or it might be a totally different job altogether. That is how prayer works. We can't just think that we know the best and pray for that. Our small selves don't know the best, but spirit does. So in the same way, when I see this person in the news that I disagree with so strongly, and I realize now, like leading up to this point, how my political views were creating this rift within me, that when I would see people talking about a policy of which I feel so strongly against, I would wish for their political demise. I would wish for their career demise. I would wish for them to be exposed and ostracized for that. And I didn't see that as a problem until it got to this point to where I saw a part of myself actually wishing for the lethal demise of what I call an enemy. I say enemy because there's really no enemies. We truly are all one. That's why it was shocking to me, is because I am somebody that believes strongly in the power, the creative power of our thought, and that we truly are one. So that what we wish on the least of us, we wish on all of us. So if I wish for somebody's demise, I'm wishing for my own demise. What hurts one of us, it hurts all of us. So that was a deep realization of what I was doing. It just took it to get to a lethal means to slap me in the face and show me how my thought processes were off. So in that same way, when I see somebody that I disagree with strongly, if I just bring myself, rather than reacting and resisting and going into praying for the highest and best for this person, it changes everything. One, it changes how I feel, but praying for the highest and best according to spirit is something so much bigger than anything I could imagine for myself. And it may very well be that that person's highest and best is for them to get out of their political career. I don't know what their highest and best is, but I can't try to choose that for spirit. I just need to simply know the spiritual truth that God is right there where they are, and that spirit will lift them up to that place. And if they get to that highest place for themselves, it's the highest place for each and every one of us. That was my realization, and it was wonderful. So that's my first point, is to pray for everyone. It brings up a point to me also. Ernest Holmes on Science of Mind on page 436, the first paragraph. We do not pray aright when we are in opposition to the fundamental harmony. That's the exact same thing that I was just talking about. If we pray in alignment with all that is how we pray aright. So now, a little bit before the coronavirus got to the point of quarantine, I was praying for the global shift in consciousness, of which we've been talking about for decades. I realized I hadn't been in the place of mental equivalence where I could truly visualize this as a possibility. We've talked about it as a possibility. We've expressed our desire for it, about creating a world that works for everyone. But I realized that there was a part of me that was holding back a little bit, that didn't think it was actually possible in my lifetime. But something clicked in me on this one particular day, and I realized I really want to see this shift before I leave this earth. I don't want to leave a world for my children to where they have to create the world that works for everybody. I don't want to see them have to go through the kind of suffering that that might require. So I had this prayer, and I had this shift, and I was able to see in my mind the soldiers laying down their weapons and picking up boxes of food. I was able to see everybody working the right occupation that they were called to, and seeing all the needs of the world being met, and that everybody is divinely fulfilled from that. Everybody gets everything they need, the shelter, the food, the health care, everybody working together in joy, artists being free to create. And I really felt this. I can envision it, and I felt the shift in my consciousness. I fast forward a few weeks, and then the coronavirus stuff hits the fan, and we're into quarantine. And right away, I didn't put the two together. But after a day or two, I realized this makes perfect sense. A shift in consciousness isn't going to just happen. On a personal level, when we have our own breakthroughs, our own spiritual work being done, sometimes it gets messy. We wish for something, we want growth, we want expansion, but we don't realize sometimes what it takes to come. So when we're doing our spiritual work, quite often, our best breakthroughs come from a major upheaval. We might have a relationship end, we might lose a job, we might have a car accident and be severely injured and laid up in a bed for a couple months. The universe making us stop in order for this new state of being to take hold. So a lot of times we don't do it on our own. It's, as Oprah Winfrey has said, the universe whispers to us when it's time to change. And if we don't hear that, the universe taps us on the shoulder. And if we still don't respond to the change that we're being called to, the universe hits us with a 2x4. I feel that is what exactly is happening. We think about the shift in global consciousness or the collective consciousness, and we've kind of gotten caught up in this place where we think about like the 100th monkey theory, where there's going to be enough people that just wake up and we're going to hit a critical mass and the vibration is going to raise and we're all going to evolve into the higher state of being, without really thinking that that's not how it works. On the personal scale to the global scale, it's the micro to the macro. It makes complete sense that we would need a major upheaval in order to stop, breathe, and take a look at what we've created. And when we see what we created, that's how we can make our choice of what we want going forward and what we want to leave from the past, the old ways that don't work any longer, and how to move into the place that creates the world that works for everyone. So this brings us to our next point, which is envision the highest good for all. So as we go forward, the way that I created the picture for the treatment of seeing the global shift, this is what we have to do. Global shift doesn't just happen. We don't want to wake up and want to create a better world without first having a mental blueprint of what that world's going to look like. This is our call. We have to create it. This is an awesome opportunity. So I encourage everybody to take a moment in your meditation, sit down, close your eyes, and picture the world in the way that you truly want to see it. It doesn't happen by random. We can't allow for the randomness to happen because there's a lot of people that are visualizing what the world might look like. If we want a world that works for everyone, we have to create that picture in our mind. So envision the highest good for everybody. And once we do that, the next step is to act on our inspirations. The inspirations, the ideas that come to us. We have to take action. Once we create that picture in our mind, that's the first step. And that's where all ideas, all creations and manifestations begin. But once you have that firm blueprint in your mind, then the ideas will come. And when you get those ideas, you have to act on them. Ideas are intuition. That is one of the ways that intuition speaks to us. So this is how it goes. If you are feeling inspired to maybe reach out and call a friend, if you're feeling inspired to create a book study online, a meditation course online, whatever you're feeling inspired to, please take action on it. That's how the spirit works within us. And we want to create change in the world. It doesn't have to be the great big things, because it's really the little things that stick, that take hold. The way that you call somebody that was looking for somebody to reach out to them in that moment, and they're like, I'm so grateful that you called. That creates a shift within them. That's the things that stick and last. So take action on these things, but at the same time, don't neglect the large things, because sometimes that's where it comes in too. Intuition and spirit works in funny ways. So I'm going to use an example of an inspiration to write a book. If I was inspired to write a book right now, my first thought would probably be to laugh, because in my family life, what's going on at home right now, at the end of the day, after we've worked with the children with their school, we've eaten, we've gotten the dogs out. At the end of the day, if I'm able to get a shower in, I'm lucky. So the idea of writing a book is so far away from me. But if that's what my intuition keeps saying to me, I need to listen to it. And another way to know how it's intuition and not just your brain creating ideas, if you get this idea 3 or more times, that's your intuition pushing you, spirit prodding you, saying it is time to take action. So I know I can't write a book, but if I get that idea, then I say, okay, what's the first step? What will I do to do this? And what happens is I'll get the idea like, I should call my friend so-and-so who happens to be an expert on this and get their feelings on me writing a book. I call them up and that person says, I think it's great. Go for it. It's also nice that I have you on the phone at this moment though, because I've been thinking about you. I would like you to run this program of which I'm creating. And there's 2 people that came to mind. Well, since you called me, I'm glad you did. Now I know it's you. And so all of a sudden you're off on a new path. And the book idea, that might be it. That might be the whole point of having the book idea. Now it doesn't need to exist anymore because it was spirit's way of getting you into the next step of your path to create that intention that you had. That's how spirit works. It is mysterious. And we can look back in our life at the past events and see how each step that has gotten us to where we are right now was not a logical path. It didn't follow a straight line. It took us to here, and then way back over here and to there and to there. That's how spirit works. And we don't see it as it's happening. But the more that we remember that and remind ourselves of that path, then the more we can take inspired action and just know, I take one step at a time. And that is how we're going to create this world that works for everybody. So we have prayed for everyone to write. We have envisioned that higher future. We're taking actions on what we are inspired to do. Now, the next step is choose. We must choose love over fear. And this is something that we have to do over and over and over again, because as we move forward and we've made this intention and now we're holding true. And when we see something in the news and we go into right knowing about it, right prayer, just holding the highest vision, It doesn't take long. For me, it might be 15 minutes. And if I might see something else in the news again, which might say that I'm looking at the news too much. But anyway, 15 minutes later, I might see something else in the news that right away I go back to fear. I worry about the future. I worry about money. I worry about what's going to happen to our country if this policy gets enacted. That's fear. So I need to bring myself back. This is just like what we do with meditation. When you're meditating on the breath, you focus on it. You focus on it in and out. You just breathe. But pretty soon you realize you've been thinking about your last grocery shopping trip for about a minute or so. So you just gently bring yourself back to focusing on the breath. You don't judge it, you don't label the thought, you just acknowledge it and bring yourself back. It's the same way with choosing love over fear. So as you go forward with this, remember, you will be reminded and you'll see yourself, oh, that's a fearful thought. I need to bring myself back to what would love do? What's the loving thought to hold here? Because that's the thought, and that's what I need to hold my vibration on. Now, this is an important part that I really want to make sure I get out there. I call us the spiritual warriors. We are the ones that are going to create this world. We're all creating together, but it takes somebody with the vision and the ideas to hold to it. So we are the spiritual warriors. Take care of yourself. We have many times in our own personal work, we've grown, we've gone through breakthroughs. We've seen how those upheavals were painful, and we can look back in hindsight to the painful experiences in our life and see how they've gotten us to where we are. So that's what we need to help others see right now that are having a hard time. But we also need to remember, just because we have done this before and we have our own spiritual practices for self-care, we still have to remember we are not immune to the stress of the unknown. These times are upside down of anything that we've experienced before. So it is our job to help facilitate this awakening on the planet. But we have to, as they say, put on our mask first. You can't help anybody else if you are too depleted to help yourself. So please take care of yourself and also go easy on yourself. When you find yourself veering off the path and you're back on the path of fear, don't judge yourself. And don't judge others that happen to be going down that fear path. Just hold them in the light. Pray for their highest good, and that will create that vibration, at least within yourself. When I created this talk and I'd been working on it, I realized I hadn't actually sat down and practiced it. So the first time that I did was a Saturday morning, and I was really able to pray for those that I am in disagreement with. I was surprised at how I came out of that prayer, and that just picturing the best for them, knowing that that's going to bring the best for everybody, I felt 100 times better. This is a powerful practice when we hold people in their right. So the last step, that is after we choose love over fear, the last step here is to embrace the best you. This is it. This is what we've been working for. We've done this work. We've created and are creating who we are, who we know at our core that we are to be, that we are spirit incarnate, that we are little pieces of the one infinite beyond of which we all come from, that one consciousness from which we all stem, that we are the little pieces of God, and we can only be that to the amount of which we're able to live up to it. If we believe God to be a caring, forgiving, compassionate entity, we have to be a kind, compassionate, caring entity. If we go out and we think small and we think malicious thoughts, in that very moment, that is what God is being, because we are God expressing and experiencing all at the same time. So embody that, embrace it, know that your highest and best thoughts of what you could possibly be, you already are. That is within you right now. So embrace it, embody it. Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. The infinite knowingness becomes our wisdom only in such degree as we embody its intelligence. It has been said that we can know God only insofar as we can become God. We have to embody and embrace it. So one more time, I want us to join together for the affirmation that we had. It was in the bulletin if you printed that out at home, but if not, just repeat after me. I'll say it twice. I welcome my highest self. Let's repeat. I welcome my highest self. I envision a better future. I envision a better future. And I take action when I am inspired. And I take action when I am inspired. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to make the world into that place that we wish it to be. So, right now, I'm going to sum it all up. I'm going to sum it all up. It's peace. You're going to pray for everyone. And I mean everyone. Know their highest and best. We cannot resist that we are feeling like we're against. What we resist persists. In order to neutralize it, we have to pray for everyone. Next, envision the highest good. We have to create the blueprint in our mind, which is an extension of the one mind that is creating the future through all of us. So we can't just let it be a random happening. We have to envision it right now. Next, act on inspirations. We have to take our ideas, the things that come to us, our intuitions, and put them in play, just knowing that whatever that step is creating the next step for us and creating the world for everybody else that works in the best way. Next, choose love over fear again and again and again. Don't ever let yourself going down that path. And then we have to embrace our highest self. That is how we're going to do it. You have to live up and be what you are and go easy on yourself when you falter, because we all will. But the intention and the action is what creates it. And it will become our second nature, not human nature, but spirit nature. That is what we are creating. One last quote that I was inspired by. So this is Bono, live in Paris, 2016. You know what I want? My prayer, our prayer, that we refuse to become a monster in order to defeat the monster. We choose love over fear. Love, love. We can do this, people. The time is right here, right now. Thank you for being here. Truly an honor. God bless. Have a wonderful day.